It's a blip.
Yeah.
In the memory of the universe, we've only been here for a blip.
Right.
And think about the lifetime of each person. Think about how long we have to do our thing, the work we're doing, and the great things that we want to share. You know, it creates a great urgency.
The first thing I want to say is that it's just nice to be in a room with you, because you were one of my very first guests on the show.
Yes.
In 2020.
Yes.
On Zoom.
You know, that's a good thing that we're in person now.
It's very nice.
It's so great.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. Those conversations that were taking us out of our, loneliness together, they were very profound.
Yes.
But also there was something strange and isolated about them.
I think it helped us to go internally, our inner world.
Yeah.
And figure out how to extemporaneous it.
Yes.
How did we get these thoughts out? Because we
Yeah.
can't hold them here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we isolated inside and on the outside.
Right. And now we're at the Electric Lady Studios with, I feel like we're communing with history.
Yeah, I love this board. It's
Yeah.
a lot of energies here. I love this place.
Stevie Wonder, Stones.
Yeah.
Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix, yes.
These
His
buttons,
bedroom was
I feel like
back.
we should play with them.
Yeah. You got to have a place that inspires creativity. You know, we're working on the next album, thinking about all the things that have happened,
Yes.
channeling it.
Yes,
It's beautiful to create. It's a powerful, powerful gift, you know?
it is.
Yeah.
And time.
That's right.
I'm thinking a lot about time. Even though this show is evergreen, I think it's worth saying that we've just had an election.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
I'm
right.
working on a project that is focused on the 250th anniversary of this country, which is coming up in 2026. And I've been thinking about how that is no time at all, 250 years. I was talking to my son the other day, and I said 250 years, and he goes, Mom, that's like 3 80-year-olds, right? It's such a short moment in time.
And it's also a beautiful thing to realize, you know, you can't get too hung up on yourself.
No.
We're all in this very brief moment together.
Yeah.
And got to be kind to each other.
Yeah. I mean, just this year, Benny Golson lost Quincy, and I've been thinking about that contact that we get to have.
Yeah.
You know, how precious that is, just to touch that direct lineage.
That's the whole thing. We can go down. I know we both share that.
Yes.
That love of
Yeah.
just being able to get access to the incredible cultural inheritance that we both are part of and want to forward and extend, to be able to, you know, speak with the elders while they're with us.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
Yeah. You have been communing with the elder statesman of Beethoven.
Yes. Not much. He's older than 250 years.
But not much.
But
So-
not much. See
So
that?
Beethoven is 6 years older than America.
That's right.
And so I was doing some learning because, I didn't go to school. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of things I like to learn.
You school of life.
School of life. So in 1770, the year that Beethoven was born,
Right.
so 6 years before this country was a country, in Boston, an unarmed black man was shot by British troops.
Yeah.
Right? Start of the revolution, really.
Yes. A very significant moment.
And that's sort of, the beginning of our modern history as a country. And at the same time, this baby's being born in Germany who's going to redefine the history of music. And I was thinking about how those two things and a million other things that were happening, it's like a chord. It's like all these notes that come together and they make a chord
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
defines time.
Harmony. Yeah.
or dissonance.
It can be both. Harmony can
Yeah.
be, it's a thing that happens in time where we realize as we study history that most things are happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
And it stretches the perception of what's true of us.
Mm-hmm.
We are we contain multitudes. Whitman talks about the idea, but as a people, I'm saying we are so many things at once.
Yeah.
That's the thing about time.
Mm-hmm.
It's to know where you are in time is really difficult because there's so much context that's required for you to have that sort of presence of mind, that consciousness to then see, okay, this is where we are. This is how we move it in a direction that maybe is beneficial for the greatest amount of people.
Yeah.
That's the thing that, as an artist, you kind of have this inspiration, but also it's a responsibility to think about all these aspects of time and where we are and how do we respond, react, redefine, re-examine time.
That's why we need a rhythm section.
Hello. Come on, swingers. Swing out. Yeah, baby. Get it. Where's my rhythm? Rhythm sandwich.
Missing a rhythm section.
We need some bass drum energies.
Yeah.
We need the cymbals. I'm loving it.
Yeah. Why'd you pick Beethoven? Why Beethoven, not Mozart, not Bach? Why Beethoven?
It just resonated with me in a way that, for years, as a kid, I started playing music in all these different musical traditions. And my teacher for classical music, when I was 11, I started the piano. My mother, she had this vision of me playing the piano. So I was a percussionist, drummer, kind of dabbling and stuff before that. And then piano with Shirley, Miss Shirley, who was, she went to the Curtis Institute of Music and Juilliard, and she moved back to Metairie, Louisiana, and taught lessons in the community. So I would go to see her on Sundays, and we'd have a monthly recital, and then she started to enter us into, her more advanced students into the piano competitions in the city. And at the same time as that's happening, I'm playing in night haunts, like the Maple Leaf in New Orleans with young legends, Trombone Shorty, Troy Andrews. We grew up together. He's, from the 6th Ward, the oldest neighborhood, the Treme, the oldest black neighborhood in America, where Louis Armstrong was born, and he carries that tradition. So by the time we were 14, he had been a veteran for 10 years, starting when he was very young. And we had teachers who were, these are elders in the community, mentors, like Ellis Marsalis, Alvin Batiste, Kid Jordan, all of them who are no longer with us, but we were the last generation to receive that line of the of the greats of our hometown, not just the greats from anywhere else, but these are people who I know your cousin and your uncle. We grew up together, and your dad, me and him, but also, some of the greatest musicians. So the range of different exposure to music. Then I was learning music from the way that the internet was forming at the time and burgeoning into our culture, shaping our taste, shaping out where we curate music for ourselves. The radio, Cash Money Records, Juvenile, Manny Fresh, all of these musical traditions in New Orleans are happening and at their apex. And then video games, playing video games, learning the scores of video games. So that all created this, it's my own view of music based on this very eclectic environment.
Yeah.
And Beethoven's music, when I was playing those melodies as a kid, they always felt like they were the most rhythmically, thematically, and emotionally structured to accommodate transformation.
Oh, that's a really nice way to put that. Yeah.
It can accommodate a lot.
Yeah.
And there are other great composers whose music can as well, but his music, I love the communal aspect of it too. You play Fur Elise at a party and everybody's, somebody will come up half drunk and be like, I played this when I was 6 years old. Let me get the piano, and then they play a broken version of it or something. So I also like the fact that, or like Ode to Joy, you hear that every holiday, Christmas concert, you just things that are ubiquitous that inspire community, inspire people to come together, inspire people maybe who have had a love for the piano or a love for music, maybe lost it, maybe a relationship with classical music. maybe they didn't see themselves in it, maybe they don't see themselves in it, and
Right.
then now this will inspire a relationship with the music. There's just so much that Beethoven also represents culturally in terms of class, and musical values that maybe perhaps if we had recordings of him, he wouldn't espouse so staunchly if he was here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that being not flipping that on its head to rebut tradition or to buff tradition, but to extend it and perhaps rethink it.
Yeah.
So just so much that he represents. I mean, I could go on and on why Beethoven, but yeah.
No, that all makes so much sense. And also Beethoven was transformation. I mean, that's what he was doing every step of the way. The piano was transforming itself. The instrument was transforming itself while he was writing for it, and he was pushing it further and further.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you were a kid, did you dare to mess around with it, or was it sacred, that music, when you were learning it? And it's only later that you've allowed those things to cross-pollinate.
Oh, I was always,
Okay.
I would learn it as the score has the music, and I wasn't primarily classical as I described my journey, but I would learn the classical music as if I was only playing classical music.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I would maybe at one of our shows later that night, after a lesson, I would slip it into the show that was not an orchestra. It was a rhythm section.
Yeah.
And we playing music, and I'm just in different environments. It would come out in different ways. It would be something that source material, the theme, or maybe the chord structure. Maybe I would take the chord structure and I would reharmonize that and put it over a different kind of groove, and then use the theme as you would a composition that you're going to improvise a solo on in jazz.
Yeah.
And I don't even really like the term improvisation, because now after all of these years of refining and thinking through how you want to approach melody, rhythm, harmony, sound, all these aspects of music, you get to a point where you're not just improvising. It's spontaneous composition.
Yeah.
It's already formed in your mind, and it allows for you in a moment of spontaneity to create something that has the compositional rigor of a piece you may have spent months to compose. So that's kind of my process with this. I did things here and there, and I'd always thought about doing an album like this or some offering like that.
Yeah.
And now I think the real catalyst for it was, the timing of it. Just so many things aligned right now for me to do it. And I just went to my house and recorded it in a couple of days at my piano at home.
Yeah. I love it. I love what I've heard. And I love this whole idea. I'm very pro reimagination.
Yes.
And it's so much really more in alignment with what Beethoven envisioned and was creating than the idea of hundreds and thousands of piano students sitting in little cubicles trying to play exactly the same way, exactly the same, notes. That to me is sort of squashing that spirit of invention and, transformation.
Yeah, it's the prison of over-reverence.
Yeah.
We get locked into this idea.
Yeah.
And that might have just been a Tuesday for him. Now, there was great intention.
Right.
It's great intention also. That's why it's to be revered, because we should never forsake quality and craft in pursuit of originality.
Right. Beethoven and blues sound like they're very far apart, and they're not at all. So this is the stuff I do know. So you have Beethoven, who's the first romantic, really, right?
Yes.
And then you get to Brahms, and then Brahms mentors Dvorak, and then Dvorak comes to America, and then Dvorak hears Negro spiritual, and that transforms his music. And then we get to all of these Black composers. Like you and I first met around the music of Florence Price, William Grant Still. So there's like this curvy path, and what? So Beethoven dies in 1827. It's less than 100 years before Ma Rainey and Bessie Smith are making blues records.
Yes.
So when you were, I think the answer is yes, but when you are processing this, I don't think you're leapfrogging all of that. That's all filtering in, like all of these voices, yeah?
Absolutely. That's the thing of knowing where you are in time. First thing, thinking about where's Beethoven in the lineage of music history, cultural history.
Yeah.
All these different lineages you can follow the line of, and you start to see how a lineage isn't just a straight line. They're interwoven with other lineages, and it becomes this incredible oneness of all things.
Yeah.
We're all connected.
Yeah.
Everything is everything. So it becomes clear to me the more and more that I study and develop my humanity and try to filter that through my artistry, that everything is really so interconnected, and there's so much that music allows for us to speak to in regard to that words fail us in doing justice to.
You know, when I'm working with young classical musicians and I'm trying to sort of elicit in them just a very basic human response to the music and do away with that fear of tradition. You know, I always talk about Beethoven, and I talk about how I think what we connect with in Beethoven is the struggle, right? Because he had a really hard life.
Deeply tragic.
Yeah, so on so many levels, from childhood to death, just one challenge after another. Plus, he was living in a time of political unrest and hiding out from Napoleon's army and everything, right? And so I don't want to make too much of the title, but Beethoven, I mean, the blues also implies suffering and expression of resistance.
Yes.
Yeah.
The blues and the title for me spoke so clearly. It was just a clarion inspiration. It just dropped. It was Beethoven blues. It speaks on so many levels. I think that the vision of blues for me always is the musical, the sound of the human condition. It's the musical allegory of the human condition. So you have this idea of suffering, and you have this idea of overcoming, and you have this idea of, I lost my job and my dog passed away, but I'm waking up today. This idea of all of these things that you feel and experience throughout time. And the innovation of the blues was to put it into a form and a sound and a lyrical structure and a cultural movement that can be shared and people can join together and play this blues reality, this form, this idea of blues from different walks of life without having to speak the same language. We can just sit on the porch and play some blues. That's amazing for that to exist. But that feeling existed in humanity from day one. And you hear it in indigenous music from all around the world. You hear it in the pentatonic scale. You hear it in the music of Beethoven. And that's when you feel that pathos, that the darkness and the heaviness. But the human condition is also the idea of how you transcend and come out of the darkness. So his music has all of that in it, from the darker blues to the transcendent elements of blues. And that's why it lends itself to a rendering and an extension of the thematic material in a blues idiom.
Yeah. I mean, one of his most famous compositions was that text called Ode to Joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's transcendent. When you hear that live, that's music you have to hear in person. The weight of that, imagining that. Ninth Symphony was after so much of a tumultuous, his life, even the Seventh Symphony, he had to press his ears against the wood of his piano to compose the piece. The vibrations of the music coursed through his body so that he could understand what the notes were. He was going deaf. While he was, that losing his hearing as a musician.
Right.
Can you imagine?
No. I mean,
how does that even...
Right.
So, yes. It's very transcendent.
Yeah. The last time I heard the Ninth live, there was a gentleman sitting behind me who was singing the whole time. And it was so annoying. And yet it was also so beautiful, that he was so inside that music.
So I think that the beauty of classical music is that it's this music that was made for people to sit in a concert hall or in a parlor and experience this in a form of community, in a form of stillness. And if you take the essence of that and bring it into the contemporary world with these new additional idiomatic and thematic material added to it, it's really something that people don't really have right now. And I think we need more of it.
Yeah, we do. We have to keep doing all of the work. Okay.
You too.
Yeah.
We got more to do. When I'm coming to San Francisco.
I have an idea. I've grown an idea since we've been talking.
Oh,
but I have one more. I have one more thing.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it. Whoa, Lara, what we doing?
Wait, but first you have to answer this question. Okay, so Beethoven is now 6 years old.
Yes.
And then these guys in Philadelphia, and they're working really hard on this document. They keep scribbling things out and changing things. Huh. They end up with 3 ideas that seem like good ideas. That we should all have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. So, not to put you on the spot, let's just focus right now on the pursuit of happiness and what that means to you today, right now, here.
Pursuit of happiness is to be able to have the opportunity for family, for community, and to be able to contribute to that every day unfettered. Because if you have that, your community is really more of your way of helping the world. There are superheroes out there who, can reach millions and millions of people. But for the everyday folks, and my definition of happiness for me is really how do we in our community, in the world around us, contribute, and that reverberates to the world at large. Our world is here and it's here, and it's all connected. So happiness is finding your place here, local. The local is the global. And the expression of that, however you can, is one of the most fulfilling aspects of life.
Today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Woo. Thank you.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get it.